Mr. Bellamy?
Here.
Chair Trivett?
Here.
Vice Chair Stevens?
Here.
Mr. Fuller?
Here.
Mr. Carnifex?
Here.
All right, first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. Are there any additions, corrections?
I move that we approve.
Second.
Ms. Hutton? Aye. Mr. Bellamy?
Aye.
Chair Trivett?
Aye.
Vice Chair Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Fuller?
Aye.
Mr. Carnifex?
Aye.
Any board member announcements?
Your Chair, I would say the topping off ceremony was really nicely done, and it's quite an impressive structure we're building. And as you start closing it in and making it look like something, it's a lot of space under roof. So really exciting to have it come together.
Yeah, thank you to MEB for hosting us out there. I thought it was a nice event, too. It was a great opportunity for everybody to see it. All right, that takes us on to reports, and the first is a financial report.
Thank you, and I'm going to make just a few comments, and I'll be speaking from the Statement of Revenues and Expenditures, beginning with the revenues. And if you'll refer to your report, you'll see that we had interest income for the month of $45,600, and that was on our banking account. We had interest income on our SNAP accounts, $58,600. You'll note I have on there an unrealized loss of $60,000, and I just want to comment that typically, unless we cross a fiscal year before maturity, probably didn't need to book that, but I did book it because they report our managed account at market value, and that just helps me always make sure I'm tying into what SNAP has in their account. However, we should not realize a loss as long as we keep those investments to maturity, okay? And then we had operating expenditures of the month of $1.1 million, and the majority of that was our first debt service payment. And then just a minimum other operating expenses of about $22,000 during the month. We had capital expenditures of $174,600, and so that netted against our revenue. We saw our fund balance decline by $1.3 million. And then, I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any.
You said that was the first debt payment? That was the first one?
Yeah.
Milestone reached.
Yeah.
The building off, make a payment.
That's it. That's it.
And I see that James City has not paid its share yet this year. Is that correct?
That's right. We actually haven't invoiced.
Are you invoiced? Okay, that's what I was wondering. Have we been invoiced or do we
We
need
have not been invoiced. That's one of the things we're going to talk about later today.
For FY25, you have made your payment. It's on there. It's just, well, it's the other piece.
Yeah, it's not the payment for operating.
Right.
Right, that's what I thought. We hadn't done
Yeah.
the other part.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to talk about it shortly.
Well, we're willing, so we'll figure out how do we make the mechanics go.
You got the check right now? We'll take
I
it.
didn't bring it. No, I did not
Okay.
bring it.
All right.
Your
Barbara will be glad to take it.
paid double, right?
Probably.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Dameron?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the operator report.
Good afternoon, John DeMeglio, Kemper Sports. I'm here with Keith Karam, who's our Senior Vice President of Marketing. He's going to be joining us today to give the operator report. Yeah, I'll give it, you stand there, Keith, that'll work. All right, we're going to cover again our FF&E report. We're going to give some operational updates, and then we're going to discuss some marketing and sales that we've deployed and as we further continue with the project. Some key action items from the last month. We've solidified Adventure Solutions has been selected as our partner to develop the storefront facing portion of the Adventure Gym. Todd and MEB are going to be speaking with him specifically on the next phase of the design elements to solidify that partner. We're continuing to look at what design elements we're going to have in the rear portion of the Adventure Gym space as we continue to refine what assets we want. We're either going to look at Adventure Solutions to provide alternative recommendations to what that space will look like in the back, or we potentially could pivot to an alternative vendor. At this point, we've provided budgetary quotes for all kitchen smallwares, and that's been developed and supplied to MVP to incorporate in the overall budgetary scope of the project. One of the things that we'll do late portion of 2025 as we move into 2026 before we actually make this purchase is take it out for a formal procurement process to refine that budgetary scope. But we wanted to get formal quotes to make sure we were in line with where we wanted to be from an expenditure perspective. We've since done the same with all sports related FF&E, anything from bleachers to chair carts and alike to support the sports operations. And then this coming week, we're going to be meeting with MVP and Todd and his team to review all of the quotes supplied, review other elements that are going to be in the scope of MEB, and make sure that there's no gaps, that we didn't miss anything on what's going to be in the project scope versus what's going to be from the owner perspective of procurement as it relates to the project. In the last 4 weeks, we've been able to complete 6 tasks. We created an entity code to give access to the facility to Kemper Sports buying platform. So should we need to make purchases for the facility, you'll get to leverage our preferred buying rates. We've completed development of our use agreement and put that into effect. We've created specific sales content for both basketball and volleyball. Today we started the content for wrestling, gymnastics, dance and cheer to specifically target programs. We set up the back of house platform to track facility financial performance on our accounting platform. We created a booking pace report that I'll show you a little bit, portion of it later on in the presentation. And we launched the back end of our point of sale system to manage our contracted events and begin taking deposits once we have our account set up. There were 4 incomplete tasks from the last report. We have not moved on the general manager. We'll be talking about that during the closed session, and that'll be something that we'll look to continue to execute. The sales director was also in our task list from the last 4 weeks. We have not implemented a pre-opening phone plan, as that's going to be tied to our general manager once we procure that staff member. But right now, either my contact information or Steve Ryan's contact information is available for any inquiries we might be receiving. And we are still pending the execution of the depository account, though our accounting team has met with Barbara on getting that set up. Key pending tasks is continuing the brand development, launching the website, and our pre-opening marketing communication. And then our next milestones that we're focused on currently is finalizing the logo package, hiring those key staff roles, introducing the next elements of sales content into market, further introducing lead generating opportunities to book the facility out, and then we're working on finalizing our trade show plans in coordination with Visit Williamsburg and the other vested interested in the community. Facility staffing, we've provided an offer to the board for our general manager candidate. We're going to discuss that later. We've decided to actually re-engage our recruitment process for our sales and marketing director and sports manager. Based on the timing of where we've been with the hiring cycle, we wanted to get fresh resumes back in that system. So those are going to be posted in, one's been posted already, another will be posted this week through Kemper Sports platform of recruitment. On operations, we launched the back end of our point of sale. We've established all general ledger codes and account codes for the financial tracking at the facility level. Not overly exciting, but necessary. We created a KSM payroll company to process payroll once we do hire staff to the property. As I discussed, we've set up Kemper Sports standardized pace report and tracking. This is a portion of what that pace report looks like. Currently, anything in pipeline is contracts that are out with LOI. Anything that's in contracted revenue means that we've got a solidified contract for that piece of business. And the goal would be, as we come to these meetings, you'll see things going from pipeline into contracted business and moving the needle as it relates. And then once we deliver the fiscal year 25-26 budget to the board, this will track pacing against actualizing that revenue, which will really be your 26-27 budget based on the timing of the opening. From a sales perspective, we have 28 active leads. We've had 3 new leads at the time of this report. In the last week, we've actually had a few more come through. We've got 31 committed dates in LOI. In 2026, we have 7 dates. In 2027, we have 27 currently. And in the last month, we've formalized our first contract with Phenom Hoops, who's solidified 7 dates. They're pending the deposit, $15,000 deposit to reserve those dates, and we're projecting about $105,000 in direct revenue to the facility and close to 2,800 room nights for their events that we're looking to participate and host. The next contract's pending. We've delivered a contract to Blue Silver Volleyball, LR Productions, and Hype Nation. They're in the final review phases on their end of those contracts and should be returning them to us expeditiously. And then our next move from LOI to conversion is going to be Big Shots Hoops, Zero Gravity, 3-step volleyball, though Big Shots, we have to coordinate some dates, and we had some discussion this morning with Morgan and the Visit Williamsburg team to ensure that we're all aligned on what the best pieces of business are going to be. New inquiries since the last month, at least at the time of the development of this report. Berg Quest and the Virginia Cat Festival, which have been Williamsburg events, I believe for the last year or a year plus, have reached out to host their experiences at the facility. I had a very in-depth conversation with that group yesterday, understanding their needs, and I think they're going to be both great experiences that we will be able to host at the Sports and Event Center. And then in the last month, we've also had preliminary conversations with U.S. Pickleball about hosting a national event in 26-27. So what we've put together here is incomplete tasks are any LOI that's currently outstanding. Completed tasks is converted contracts. And then the goal would be is as we move the LOIs to contract, that number will increase. And then more importantly, now that we've got an established use agreement for the facility, we can eliminate the LOI process barring times of the year where it makes sense for us to have some groups competing with one another, frankly, for the facility and for the market, and just move to contract directly rather than go to an LOI and then to contract. From a marketing perspective, we continue to refine the website, gwsportsandeventcenter.com. We've supplied each of the board members with a link to where we're at with the wireframe. We continue to tweak, and after the meetings last week with each of the different stakeholders, I think we're in a pretty close place to launch the site, knowing that it's still developmental, and we'll have to garner content as we continue to grow. We have made an offer at gwsec.com, which is currently held by another group but not utilized. The very modest offer was rejected, but we may look to ask the board if we can up at what price point is there value for us to continue to try to secure that domain name. We've developed the social media channels for both Instagram and Facebook. We'll circulate that amongst the team after this week, where we can start building out preliminary content and getting mass to those social digital channels. And we've created our social media playbook, which is what we will be sticking to on our posting schedule, frequency of post, and how we're going to build out mass in any one of those areas. Keith, you want to?
Yeah, I would just to add, as John said, we'll continue to refine this as we go. In-house, we have a team that does social postings for tournaments like Maui Invitational, and those individuals will work with me and my team on making sure that we produce the best possible content for you all. And then as we kind of get further and further down this line, as we see adjustments that need to be made on the back end of the site, we'll make those adjustments, and we'll just continue to check it and push it, and look to deliver the best possible experience so we get as many events in and through there, even in advance of the complete of the build.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, so I think you hit on it briefly. You talked about you get these opportunities during peak seasons when can you talk a little bit, we know when basketball and volleyball, they're going to drive the heads and beds, the number of kids playing. So talk a little bit about how, if somebody contacts you and once one of those dates in those prime periods, how do you make a decision? When do you make the decision? If you've got an open weekend, can you talk a little bit about how you're handling that now
Yeah, so what we've developed with our partners at Visit Williamsburg is a scorecard to assess each of these pieces of business on multiple fronts. One being the direct impact to the property, one being the direct financial impact to tourism revenue, one assessing the visibility of the program that is potentially using the facility. Is Adidas as a national brand slightly more favored than Big Shot Hoops, just for an example, which is a regional brand? We also assess whether they're bringing multiple events to the facility and to the market, and then what other time periods are they filling for us. So if someone's going to commit, like Phenom Hoops, to 7 dates and potentially more, and they fall in off-peak periods for either tourism or the facility, they might get first right of refusal for a peak date because they're being a better partner to us across the board. So we developed this scorecard. It scores it on a number of different segments, from number of room nights in market, direct spend, estimated participation, the tournament utilization, actual expenditures at the site level, and then we collectively make a decision on the balance of those elements. There's not going to be one element that gets overly out of balance, if you will. It's our responsibility to fill the facility and fill the facility with revenue-generating opportunities. But we also understand that it's good for the whole community if we can fill the facility with revenue-generating opportunities. That also brings 100 more room nights. And so that's how we're doing it currently. And then we meet weekly with the Visit Williamsburg team to discuss those opportunities. And then in those shoulder periods, if we've got something that is a good piece of business and it passes all of our checkpoints, we'll go immediately to contract. Really, it's during the periods that we know we're going to have competition. Let's make a smart assessment, because we can get the most out of our best piece of inventory, which is our, really what we're selling here.
And that was, it was kind of hit on the question I was going to have is, when you get multiple offers, how long do you hold them? Obviously in this type of business, it's not first come, first serve, because some lower quality events might be smarter and put in requests well in advance. So what's the hold period on that, where you keep somebody at arm's length?
I wouldn't necessarily, it's a hold period or there's a specific length of time. Like if we have a soft hold on a calendar date, there gets to be a time frame where we have to solidify.
Sure.
And is it 12 months? Is it 18 months? Usually in that 12 to 18 month range is for peak dates. We want to be close to contract. If it's a shoulder period, we might not wait long at all. Let's get them locked in, because we're not sure if there's another lead coming. Part of what our PACE report will do, particularly as we further evolve this facility and understand how many leads we need to generate the number of events and the quality of events that we're looking for, it'll also track our booking windows. And as we understand those booking windows, we'll close the distance. 12 months is usually where we want to be when we're solidifying everything. But we might keep somebody hanging out for a little bit longer if we have a sense that there's another piece of business coming behind it, or we might push to get something closed sooner. If you want a Tuesday in January, let's go. Well, here's the contract. I'll only take $5 to solidify the deal.
And typically, in my experience, and y'all are the professionals though, the larger, bigger events have a booking further out. So it's a lot easier to understand what their needs are for those national things than a regional or a local.
Correct. If it's a national event, they're looking 2 or 3 years out to solidify on their end. And if we have the opportunity for a national event, we'll absolutely explore that, and we'll make sure that it makes sense, not at the expense of trying to find something else.
So have you found through this first few months that because it's new, because it's Williamsburg, and between the both of you, that Williamsburg has been, they've reached out and said, we would really like to be there? Or is it more of us going out and beating the bushes, or a combination of both? I'm just trying to get a feel, you know, they were in Henrico last year, or they were in Virginia Beach, and now they want to come to, so can you talk a little bit about how that conversations and what you're hearing are going?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's excited about the facility. They know it's a premier facility. I can tell you that anytime you have a new facility, you get kind of the new shiny with a lot of these events rights holders, and they might move a piece of business from a current location to a new location just to keep their event fresh. I would say it's a combination of both. People have reached out because they're aware that the facility is coming and they're excited about it. And then conversely, both the Visit Williamsburg team, who's done a great job of promoting the facility and getting a lot of leads, and our direct relationships in markets that we've been able to just reach out to people we've worked with before that have events in this area. It's made it beneficial so that we can be a little bit more choosy. Now it's how do we accelerate it and you know, get things to the finish line a little bit more quickly.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you,
Thank you
gentlemen.
for the time.
Thank you.
Now we'll move on to the construction report.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
I'm Todd Walker. I am the construction manager on the Greater Williamsburg Sports and Events Center. Here to give you some construction updates. Our substantial completion to start off with and final completion dates are holding, so we are still on schedule, even with all the foul weather. We had guys out there working yesterday, so you can see they're committed. It is nice to be under roof, though. I'll start with some milestone updates. So 1 through 3, utility agreement, BMP, building permit, all that's been issued. Number 4 is permanent power. This is new. We're hoping to have permanent power, and we're coordinating with Dominion to have permanent power by August of this year. We're going to begin placing slabs the last week of February in earnest, and you'll see a slide we have coming up that shows our pour dates and the size of these pours. We did do, as a caveat, we did do one small pour last week. It was the storage and electrical room on the backside. It was a small pour. I think it was 54 yards or something like that is what I was told. So, building dry-in, we're looking for the PEMB to be dried in by June and the hub space to be dried in by July. So that'll be really nice to have that building dried in. We'll be flying at that point. Moving on to construction complete. So the mock-up wall is complete. I don't know who's been out there. I know we were all out there for the topping out ceremony, but I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to walk down on the opposite end of where we were to look at the mock-up wall. You'll see all the elements that'll be on the exterior of the building, from the face block at the bottom, the brick, the inset brick, the metal wall panels. It's very nice. That picture doesn't do it a lot of justice, but it's very nice if you go by it. Building progress, we're about 30% complete. We have finished setting all the conventional steel at the hub space. Continuing with the TLS roof on the PEMB through 1/8. That should be probably 2/8. My apologies. Completed mezzanine conventional steel and began decking of the mezzanine. That's ongoing. We have started and we continue the brick on the west end of the PEMB. As you can see there on the left is what it'll look like. And they get, I think that's about a week's worth of work. So they fly with that brick. Continue the IMP wall panels at the PEMB. Those are on the east side. So site work right now is about 25% complete. We're not going to have a lot of site work being done probably for months now, outside of maybe coming to clean some stuff up, but we won't see those guys in earnest until either later this year or early next. Sports court under slab rough-in has begun. We are doing electrical and the turf duct. So I think we're into that a little bit. Brian, you and I walked down to that end. That is quite the system that they're installing out there. So I think we are starting to backfill. We had a lot of conversation on the inspection of it with the city, and we're at the point where we've gotten past all that.
I can't imagine. They've never seen anything like that. How'd they inspect it?
Well, I mean, that's what we kept arguing, that the system was very odd, but a great compromise happened. I think the city was satisfied with the inspection of that. So we're going to backfill. We have done DALT tests prior to backfilling, and then they're going to do a quality control DALT test after backfill to make sure we're not losing anything. So one of the unique things about that floor is obviously all those vents are in the floor. So it was a lot of the conversation we had to talk through about something getting spilled down it or something getting into that system below ground. So all our branch lines are going to have slope to them. So if something does get poured down or spilled down those drains, it doesn't run into the main trunk system. So that was one of the big compromises. Meetings, we continue to have our owner-architect contractor meeting bi-weekly. Our next one is tomorrow. We have met with Kemper weekly on Thursday mornings at 9 for operator coordination. We are moving those. A lot of the stuff that kicked this whole building off, we've gotten past and worked through. So we are moving those to every 2 weeks. We did hold a commissioning kickoff meeting. So our company, MVP, also is doing the commissioning on this building. It's the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing that's being commissioned. I think that went very well. Those are always fun meetings because the general contractor likes to exclude it, but I think we have a really good team in MEB to get this commissioning done. It was very positive. Additional comments, we're still working through, you can see there, all our pour dates. And those dates aren't right. We're about a week difference on them. We got that updated schedule yesterday afternoon. But I'll talk about those in a second. So we're still working through the sanitary line that we're tying into for the building. It is an old line, and we keep going back and forth. So Colonial Williamsburg is dye testing their lines right now, and they're going to let us know there are some laterals that we ran into that we're not quite sure where they've come from or what they go to. A couple of the quotes that we're still waiting on are from Data Cable. They're pulling all our cat wire for data. And then we are waiting on the wireless access points. The design that happened through MEB was a really good design, but it was a little oversaturated on the sports courts. So we had Viacom, who's doing all our AV, do a study, and they'll get probably that wireless access point study to us by the end of the week or the beginning of next. So if you look at these pour dates, along the back side, not the eyebrow, which is the very thin line on that south side, or I'm sorry, north side, we have not poured that yet, but the larger spaces off the back, kind of the annexes, we poured those already. They're going to pour the eyebrow, which is the very thin brown all the way around. With all the weather, all that water is rolling off the roof and dropping right there. So it's been a struggle to try and get those poured. But you can see the size of these pours. And all our pours are going to start at about 2:30 in the morning and last just about all day. So when you're pouring 27,000 square feet at a time, it is a lot.
How many trucks is that, roughly?
How many
That'll be something to
yards
see,
did
though.
we figure? Been like 9. Oh, it was, yeah. It's a lot. So every truck, it can't get on the highway if it's over 9 yards. So all those trucks are loaded out at 9 yards. So I'm assuming that wherever we're batching this concrete out of, that is the only concrete pour they're going to have that day out of that batch plant. That typically happens when,
How thick's the concrete? Is it rebar enforced or?
No, so we have welded wire mesh in a lot of it. And we went to that with the opportunity to do epoxy. So we did have some rebar, but we can add fiber to it to get rid of that as a cost savings. And whenever you put fiber in concrete, obviously the finish of it is not great. It's just kind of fuzzy and you never get that nice slick finish. But we're talking about going to the fiber reinforced everywhere. We're talking about putting epoxy.
Guys, it's going to be thicker in the large area to support the turf, or?
Yeah, I don't think that turf is that heavy. I mean, we have the system, it's not, it's the flooring system that we have in there. I don't think it's very heavy as it's kind of spread out over, a couple acres, but I want to say we're 4 or 5 inches, which is typical.
Those all saw cuts in that diagram?
Yeah. That's showing them, yeah. I think there was a note on there that we kind of cut out of there. They were talking about the saw cuts. Yeah, these are, in my career, I did some pretty large pours out at the brewery on the interior, and these are putting that to shame. Yeah, these are large concrete pours. I think we poured like 5,000 yards back over there. You guys ought to come out, not at 2:30, but you should come out and watch one of these concrete pours. It'll be just truck after truck lined up. Yeah.
I was gonna set up a coffee stand and try to sell the guys coffee. There's that many trucks.
It's a little bit dates. You got some coffee dates in there, some lemonade dates. Yeah.
All right, John, that's a revenue producer right there.
You guys have any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
All right, anything from legal today?
Nothing new from legal. We're just continuing to proceed forward on agreements, various agreements, looking at them and reviewing them. So, but nothing exciting.
Thank you. Any questions for legal? All right, that brings us to open forum. If there's anybody in the audience that'd like to address the board, please come to the microphone and speak to the board. Give us your name and address. Keep your comments to 5 minutes. Don't see any takers, so that moves us on to closed session.
Ready for that, huh?
Ready.
All right, I move that the Board of the Historic Triangle Recreation Facilities Authority convene and close meeting pursuant to Section 2.2-3711A 29 and A8 of the Code of Virginia, 1950 as amended, for the purpose of discussing a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including the interviews of bidders or offerors and the discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussions in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. And it's an update on the interim agreement with MEB for construction of the live performing arts facility and projected costs and discussion of budgetary and contract terms and consultation with legal counsel regarding legal advice relating to contract with Kemper Sports Management, LLC, on operating agreement and general manager employment. Also, Section 2.2-37A6 of the Code of Virginia, 1950 as amended, for the purpose of discussion or consideration of the investment of public funds where competition or bargaining is involved, where, if made public initially, the financial interests of the authority would be adversely affected, and it's an update on our interim agreement with MEB for the construction of a live performance arts facility and projected costs.
Thank you, Scott.
Maybe.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Ms. Hutton? Aye. Mr. Bellamy?
Aye.
Chair Trivett?
Aye.
Vice Chair Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Fuller?
Aye.
Mr. Carnifax?
Aye.
All right, the board will adjourn to closed session.
Ms. Hutton? Aye. Mr. Bellamy?
Aye.
Mr. Trivett?
Aye.
Mr. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Fuller?
Aye.
Mr. Carnifax?
Aye.
And I hereby move that each member certify that, to the best of their knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting, and two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board.
Second.
Ms. Hutton? Aye. Mr. Bellamy?
Aye.
Mr. Trivett?
Aye.
Mr. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Fuller?
Aye.
Mr. Carnifax?
Aye.
All right, I think that completes our agenda.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Ms. Hutton.
Aye.
Mr. Bellamy.
Aye.
Mr. Trivett.
Aye.
Mr. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Fuller.
Aye.
Mr. Carnifax.
We are adjourned.
Right.